Let's bring in someone, again, we've talked about and talked with so often during the first Trump presidency, the intervening 4 years, and we'll talk about it again as he returns to the White House. Lawrence Douglas back with me this morning, professor of law at Amherst College. He wrote in 2020, Will He Go? Trump and the looming election meltdown in 2020. He's in Sunderland, Massachusetts. Professor, I am so pleased to have you back with us. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Heather.
Not only did he not go, he's now back. So let us talk about all of this. The Trump era underway, 2.0. And I want to talk to you about these things from a legal perspective. Here we are in what seems to me an unprecedented legal situation. How do you see where things stand this morning?
Well, I mean, it is unusual that we have elected a convicted felon to be 47th president of the United States. And we also know from a legal standpoint that he has pledged basically to kind of use the Department of Justice as basically a tool of punishing his enemies and rewarding his friends. Just also kind of focusing on the fact that there are still 3 outstanding indictments against Trump. Almost certainly, he will fire Jack Smith. He's the prosecutor in the Department of Justice who has brought these charges against them. And as a result, we won't see any kind of legal reckoning with his alleged interference with the 2020 election.
Yes, he did make that sort of a focal point, those multiple criminal charges, and Jack Smith, the special counsel, he vowed to seek retribution. What form that will take, as you say, unclear. But interestingly, he was due to be sentenced in New York criminal court this month, Professor, because he was convicted of those 34 felony counts. What will happen with that?
Well, he certainly won't be serving any time. I mean, he's a first-time felon, and so it wasn't likely that he was going to receive a prison sentence to begin with. But assuming that he did receive a prison sentence, certainly the court would suspend the sentence while he is in serving as president. So I don't think we would imagine having to move the desk from the Oval Office into a prison cell. That is not going to happen.
But that was an interest. I remember our previous conversations. We talked about these things in the abstract. What if? Could he be president in jail? Could he still vote for himself? Could he pardon himself? What happens in the whole issue of pardons, not just for him, but for all of the other people involved with January 6th and all of the other in his immediate world?
Well, remember, I mean, some of the indictments against him were state indictments and state convictions. And so he'd be unable to pardon himself for any kind of state charges.
Right.
The constitutional pardon power only extends to federal cases. I do expect that he will pardon the insurrectionists of January 6th. I mean, he has praised these people. He's basically kind of treated them or described them as political prisoners of the United States. So I wouldn't be surprised at all that he uses his pardon power to pardon them. With regards to pardoning himself, he doesn't have to do that because all he has to do is he's now, the head of the Justice Department as the chief executive, and he can just fire Jack Smith and make sure that none of those cases go to trial. The 2 outstanding federal cases don't go to trial.
That it all goes away. Interesting. Here's a big issue, too. The Supreme Court. In his first term, 3 conservative judges landed on the court, and we know the decisions that they have made since. But there are 2 pending, Clarence Thomas and Chief Justice Justice Sotomayor. They may step down, so that will be 2 more. What are the key things that you'll be watching for with the Supreme Court, and what kind of an impact, again, could Donald Trump make there?
Well, remember, so he would nominate justices to the Supreme Court. They have to be confirmed by the Senate. And one of the things that we also saw last night is that the Republicans did recapture the Senate. So he could certainly use his nominating power to reshape the Supreme Court basically in a generational affecting way. And the other thing we should bear in mind is it's not simply the power to appoint members or to nominate members of the Supreme Court. He can nominate judges to the entire federal judiciary. And so that includes district court justice, appellate court, circuit court, appellate court justices, and he could really reshape the federal judiciary and stock it with loyalists. If we look to his first term into his first presidency, some of his federal judicial appointments were basically, perfectly responsible jurists. Other of them, however, were really kind of out-of-line loyalists, and that is something we should all really be concerned about, the way he could completely reshape the federal judiciary from the bottom to the top.
Professor, doubtless we'll have many more conversations on these issues. They are interesting times, I'm sure, for legal scholars like yourself. I thank you for your insight as always, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thanks so much, Heather.
Professor Lawrence Douglas from Sunderland, Massachusetts, this morning.